The one thing that I'm really sure of at this point is that every single one of us has their social media pages full of posts about the Barbie movie. People dressing up like Barbie, people throwing themed events, and basically just a whole lot of pink. I swear that even when I'm brushing my teeth in the morning, I have this thing playing in my head. Oh, Barbie, you're so fine, you blow my mind. Which is reassuring, but it's a lot. But for all the controversy that the movie triggered, especially for our lovely misogynistic friends, I think that it set motion to some much needed conversations. It exposed us to the downsides of patriarchy for both men and women, how this structure and its subtle messaging constantly pushes women to be better, but still never lets them have the moment to feel like they're good enough. In my experience, it was a very wholesome movie. It addressed certain aspects of friendship, individuality, femininity, masculinity, and of course, the obvious breed of corporate influence capitalism in ways that I had not exactly thought about in the past. And therefore, when I was walking out of that movie theater, there were hundreds of thoughts racing through my head. But truth be told, I felt like sitting through those 2 hours of this movie kind of healed some part of me that I didn't even know needed healing. When I break down the movie in my own mind, I can't help but reflect on the many ways in which I could see my own self being caught in this damaged shell of a system that we call patriarchy. Because if there's anything that I've learned in the last few years, is that your female friendships are such an immense support system. And in most cases, it's your literal foundation. I have never experienced or witnessed the kind of support that I have received and exchanged through my girls from any other relationship. And it doesn't matter which corner of the world we're all located in. But one of the biggest reasons why I chose to speak about this today actually stems from my standing inability to make and maintain friendships with other women. And truthfully, this is something that I've gotten a lot of shit for in the past. And maybe that still might happen once this comes out, but that's a risk I'm willing to take. For the longest time, in fact, close to my entire life, I have grown up around guys. I have looked up to them. I have been humbled by them. I have been associated with a lot of masculine energy in general, which is really ironic because there are literally three women in my house and one man. Two, if you choose to count my dog. But still, for reasons that are way beyond my realm of understanding or awareness at this point, I always felt comfortable around guys. While I was growing up, I was always very athletic, very loud, very aggressive, very rough. And over the years, I sort of built my personality around that state of being. Till very recently, I realized that you're allowed to be those things as long as you're a guy. Otherwise, you just end up becoming too much. And unfortunately for me, that is exactly how I viewed other women for most of my life, as too much. And it's not like I didn't have girlfriends, it's just that there would always be some sort of imbalance in that relation. And it wasn't until a couple years back that I realized that the only thing responsible for this cycle or this pattern was nothing but my own internalized misogyny, which honestly was a very painful realization. Now that I've actually experienced what true female friendships are like, the kind of genuine connection that I feel is incomparable. What I like the most about such friendships is that there is such a level of understanding and comfort that you no longer feel the need to hide parts of yourself. You can literally pick up the phone, call up your friend, and rant about the most random details of your life, about what you ate, about whether you went to the gym, about a pretty flower that you saw. It could be about that briefing that you have after a date. It could be literally anything. And now that I think of it, this kind of comfort was never experienced with guys. And maybe that's a good thing. Another thing that I really love about my female friendships is that they never ever fail to cheer me on. They never fail to make me feel supported, to make me feel important, and to celebrate every little thing that I do. They could be having the busiest week of their lives, but they would still take out time to at least send me a text communicating that they're proud of me, that they're happy for me, that they're there for me. And in that moment, I literally feel like tearing up a little because I've never seen love like this. I've never seen support like this. And I'll actually come to that in a bit, the why behind this. In addition to the love and comfort and openness of female friendships, the one thing that I respect a lot is that there is love, no doubt, but there's also tough love. Of course, there are moments in your friendships where you blindly back each other up with decisions that can be wildly self destructive, but there's a definite point where it could be harmful for them. You take a stand, you draw that boundary for them, or at least you remind them to set boundaries for themselves. As much as you cheer them on and support them, you also take a stand when they're doing something wrong or when they're doing something that is potentially harmful to themselves or other people. You keep them in check. So it's not like a blind faith kind of a situation. And I truly respect a person who has the ability to look you in the eye and tell you that they love you and also tell you that you're wrong if required. Okay, story time. Now, as I said, I grew up around guys and I always felt more comfortable making friends with them. It's not like I specifically chose to be around guys or chose to be friends with them, but that was something that I was constantly exposed to from day one. So that was not really a matter of choice, but more of something that came naturally to me. And as a result of that kind of bonding, I developed a specific kind of self image as well. Now, I was always viewed as this tomboyish person, and I sort of grew into that. I kind of internalized it and I accepted that part of my personality to be my entire identity. And it wasn't until I was in college that I realized how damaging that was. And at that point, it was very important for me to ask myself that question, that am I the problem? Do I lack the capacity to form genuine connections with other women? And I think this is a good point to introduce this one term that I personally hate a lot, but it carries a lot of relevance when I'm talking about women and how they interact with one another, especially in front of men. And that term is a pick me girl. I find this term wildly offensive, and I think it's overused in 99 out of 100 cases. And especially when it's coming from a man, I think it's highly unwarranted. But I learned a very tricky thing from my interaction with certain specific kind of women, which is that there's only one thing slightly more damaging and lethal than a man's ego, and that is a woman's ego. These pick me girls, as they call them, are not only damaging the way that they see themselves, but they're also, I think, in many ways, they force other people to question the way they see themselves as well. I had this one friend in college. We were very close. We were in the same group. We would basically spend our entire day together. We'd go shopping, we'd have our study sessions, we'd have coffee breaks, we'd go partying together, we'd spend time in our room and basically bonding over the little things that you share. And I genuinely felt that I could be myself around that person. I could share really messed up things that were happening in my life. And it was so comforting to me at that point to have an equation where things were unfiltered. I was so happy that I didn't have this kind of pressure to hide things or, selectively disclose whatever was going on in my life. But unfortunately, a few months into the friendship, I started to feel that her behavior towards me was changing a little bit. And of course, that was not a good change. I started to feel that she was being a little distant, even a little bitchy at times. She started being more restricted. She started hiding more things. She wouldn't tell me who she was talking to or where she was going or who she was meeting up with, which I felt was very unnecessary because we weren't even in the same class. We had our own separate lives, even though we had the same friend circle. That shift in behavior was now being experienced by me, even in a social setting. Like, she would deliberately say no to plans that I was making, or if we're sitting on a table and we're having a group interaction, she would cut me when I would try to put forward a point. Or, worst of all, she would use things that I told her in private, certain insecurities that I shared with her in the past in our own conversations. She would bring it up as a joke in front of other people, knowing well that I hadn't shared it with the rest of the group. And that was something that made me honestly so furious. So, of course, like any sane person, I tried to confront her, but that conversation was no good. It was not fruitful at all. It did not lead me to any conclusion. So, in that moment, I just decided to create some distance, which truthfully made me a little sad also, because I felt like I finally had a true close friend that I could be myself around. But this was not a person who wanted to be my friend, but simply just wanted to be me. There were so many things that were going on. And more than the airing of dirty laundry, what I was more upset about was the fact that something that I saw as comforting had now turned into a competition of sorts. And I truly didn't understand where all of that was coming from. It's honestly so weird to me that something that could be so lovely and comforting in your life could also make you lose faith in all of humanity. I mean, at that point, you just want to cut off from everyone, trust no one, and just stay by yourself. And funnily enough, when the Barbie movie came out, I was having this discussion with one of my guy friends who also watched it. And I was really taken aback by one of his questions where I was discussing men and women. He abruptly said to me, "Can women even be friends?" And instinctively, I just said yes. But deep down in my heart, I knew that that wasn't the entire truth. Because from my own experience itself, I know that not all women want to be your friends. In fact, most of them just want to be like you or just be you entirely. They want to take your place, they want to bring you down, and in that process, make you more guarded and selfish, and honestly, not in a good way. I mean, at one point, I was so sick of trying to have genuine girlfriends that I decided that I should just stick to my guy friends. At least there'd be no competition. At least I wouldn't have to face this copycat behavior. At least I won't have to be around moody people. At least I wouldn't be around people who are trying to drag me down or be like me or basically just preying on my downfall in one way or the other. Of course, there was a lot of drama. So, this is a myth that guy friendships are drama free. I think that some of the most dramatic people I know are men, but I think that if we get into discussing that, we might need an entirely different episode itself. But for now, we're going to stick to the girls. While I was doing all of this, while I was trying so hard not to be like the other girls, I felt like maybe I ended up becoming like every single one of them that I disliked. Maybe I was the pick me girl. Maybe I was the one who was the problem. Maybe I had accepted that I was just one of the boys, so much so that I never really cared to be one of the girls. And because this was something that was lacking in my life for the longest time, when I was watching the Barbie movie, I truly appreciated how much every single woman in that movie was appreciative of the other one, at least in Barbie world, maybe not the real world. Just because I had chosen to be one of the boys for the longest time doesn't mean that it was something necessarily right for me. Which brings us to today, where I feel more secure, I feel more loved, and I feel more fulfilled because of my female friendships. I have so much that I owe to them. That doesn't mean that I let go of my guy friendships, but I think I have more acceptance and rather more forgiveness for other women because I need to acknowledge the fact that all of us exist in a broken system. It is damaged to the core. And because it's a damaged system, it damages the people that exist within itself also. Women belittling other women or trying to be competitive or being jealous of other women is nothing but a reflection of the ugly way in which this broken system controls the way we see other people and, most importantly, the way we see ourselves. And I'd actually like to end this episode by stealing a quote from America Ferrera's monologue on Barbie that went viral. And that goes, I'm just so tired of watching myself and every single other woman tie herself into knots so that people will like us. And if all of that is also true for a doll just representing women, then I don't even know. And that's episode 2 of Thought Vault Pick Me.